Walter Benjamin said that there is no document of civilization which is not at the same time a document of barbarism. Your experience has been with treaty people as well as people who are unceded. Unceded is a word we don't hear very often, so I'll use it in another sentence. We live here on the unceded lands of the Musqueam people. My house was broken into last month, and someone now has an unceded television in their living room. Is that the right way to put it?
Oh, yes.
So unceded is colonial speak for stolen. And, I own a house in Vancouver, and I feel like I've won the lottery. I've made $1 million in the last, 6 or 7 years. What am I supposed to do?
Spend it.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. But we're in a difficult quandary, finding our way in this situation. And you have found such a positive story here. I'm so excited about it.
Me too. It's so beautiful, really. I feel very fortunate to have witnessed this in my lifetime because I've done hundreds of schools and I have never seen this before. And I think it's a wonderful model for all, not just for us, but for any school. So it's the mind of the people behind. It's, when you hear the principal saying, well, we had a problem, so we have another bus that will go and pick up the kids later, instead of saying you're going to be punished if you're late or if you don't show up. It's the freedom and the beautiful way of, I think the base of it is the love that they have for the children. And the model that the children hear also, I'm not saying that everything is perfect for them. No, there's still challenges and they still have certain hard times. But just speaking to the children, the smallest one and the teenager, it's just the way they talk. Like there's one that says, oh, when I do something for somebody, I feel so good. It's all the concern about the other that I found in Norway. It's such a gift to see them and to watch them and to look out for each other.
So do you honestly feel this is a trend, or is this an anomaly?
I don't know what anomaly means.
Is it a weird, unusual situation, or is it a trend? Do you believe this?
I think it's part of old traditions to really take care of each other that in a lot of cases has been lost. And there's a very strong movement going on now since, I would say, 4 or 5 years with young people across the country. And as you all know, we've had a lot of suicide and we've had a lot of terrible stories, and all our women that's disappearing and all that is really horrifying. And about 3 years ago in one community, 80 young people tried to kill themselves. And 13 succeed. This is in one winter. And you can imagine what that feels like. And we still do have a certain amount of suicide, but there's a movement created by the young people themselves who have been marching at more difficult times and say, the best way I can explain is I interview a lot of young people, and one of them told me, he said, I tried to kill myself. I didn't want to get up another day seeing our people getting drunk and the drug problems and the suicide. I just didn't want to see this one more time. So he said, I tried to kill myself and I did not succeed. And he says, something extraordinary happened to me. He says, now I understand how we got where we got. I understand my parents, my grandparents, my ancestors, what they had to go through. And he says, now I tell you, I will never, never do that again. He says, now I know what our people went through. And I know that it's not drug and it's not alcohol and it's not killing each other or killing ourselves. He says we have to go to some traditions that our people had. And this is where the healing will come from. He was 16 years old when he told me this. And there's another film that I made. It's called A Trick or Treaty. That tells you, a lot, just the title. And there's a lot of children that have walked in that film. If you have a chance to look at it, you will see what I'm talking about. And a lot of these young people go to universities, to high school, to speak to other young people. And they say no to suicide, no to drugs. And they're like missionaries. They preach and they talk to other children and discovering themselves how beautiful they really are and what's in their heart, and to understand their own people. So there was a prophecy that told us that it would be the seventh generation that would cure all the pain, and it would be young people who would do this. So since the 1960s, when we became Canadian citizens for the first time in our lives, it was quite something for all of us. And in the 60s, there were a lot of changes across the world in many countries, and here in the States and in Canada. People were just happy and wanting to make other people happy. Something happens, and something happened to us also. And when we became the citizens of our country, all of a sudden, we got ourselves organized and we start to travel. And it was such an incredible time because we didn't know each other. For myself, first time I came to the prairies, I thought, oh my God, there's no trees for so far away. You can see them coming miles away. It was just so different. And here we are in the same country. And there was so much love, like we were all adopting each other. And it was very, very special to discover ourselves. We're trying to decolonize ourselves. And we're making a good trail of it, I think. Yes?
Yes, I just want to say this is your most positive film. I don't want to say ever, but recently.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, we're making progress.
It's,
We're doing
it's to be
things, and
celebrated.
our children. Look at how happy these children are, and the way they speak, and they're so young and they're so wise.
I had given up on the coming generation myself, so I was a little bit surprised to see this film and how positive it was, and how strong these kids are. It's really
I didn't make it up;
encouraging.
it's true.
I know. I'm not calling you a liar.
What's your name again?
At this point, I'm not sure if I'm going to give you my real name. But it really is a special film. You've made a lot of films, and a lot of them have been about dark subjects. So it really was kind of a celebration for me to see this film and to see a hopeful, positive film. It was very, very exciting.
For me, I don't know how to express it. I don't think hope is suffice what I feel. I think it's very profound, and it's higher than hope, but I don't know what the word is.
Nor do I. Ladies and gentlemen, questions? Please. As loud as you can, please. Would they make an immersion program for the language, or is that too idealistic?
Oh no, I think that everybody really wants to preserve the language. And in a community such as Norway House, while the children now, as the teacher says, they don't come in with the language anymore, but they're teaching it, and most adults speak the language there. So there's a much better chance than in a community where the language is forgotten, it's not regularly spoken. And because they're working hard to teach the language in there. And I think, and there's a lot of artists also, they're going to do plays in their language. They can do all kinds of things that encourages the young people to realize how sacred it is and how important it is.
Please.
I'm Green Street, and I really enjoyed seeing this world on the other side over there. It was really interesting. I was wondering, was there anything that you weren't able to show us that was kind of ended up on the cutting room floor?
You know, this film, I first went to Norway House for Jordan's Principle. I don't know if you know that story. It's about a young baby that died very, very young at the age of 5. And there was a big movement to make sure that other babies would have to go through what he went through, because when the doctor said he could go home, but he would need certain equipment, there was a fight between the two governments, between provincial and federal, and who's going to pay for the expense. And then in the fight, they said he's going to have to stay in the hospital until we decide. 3 more years, and he died. And so there was really, many people were very upset about this, and there was a movement it's called Jordan's Principle, to make sure that they change their ways, and that if a child is in such need, then the government that's there should pay for whatever it is, and right away, so that the child gets help, services, and then let them fight their thing for money between themselves after. And it's still not fully applied. And this is why I went to Norway House. And I ended up doing another film which is called We Can't Make the Same Mistake Twice. And there's an important sequence of Jordan in there. So this time, I felt I'm not going to have another sequence of Jordan like in this film. I want him to have his own film. And now I'm working on Jordan's film. And so I did this one, and it's so wonderful to go in that school, to just watch the children in the classroom. It's the whole atmosphere. Imagine when they say any child who has in need of special needs is in the same classroom as the other children, and there's no bullying on those kids, and they're welcome, and the other children want to be helpful, and it's the whole basic root of thinking and of caring that is there. This is what to me, when I saw that, with children of all ages. And you talk to them, and they're all, even the one who teaches the violin, he says, I'm finding about me. A teacher would think, wow, look how great I am. I'm teaching those kids, and it's okay too. But it's to always thinking of the other. This is what I saw of all ages there. The way they express themselves, the way they live, and the way they care. And to me, how can you beat that? It's just so beautiful. I cannot praise them enough.
There was another question there, please.
One of the simplest things we could do for reconciliation is to follow Cindy Blackstock to make sure that reserve schools get the same amount of funding as non-reserve schools. The school that you chose could be any West Side school in Vancouver, but I'm very sure it's not the school on the res.
This is what we've been fighting for, and Cindy Blackstock is our totem pole of the country. She's just so strong, and she's done so much, and she continues. And it's still in court, and we're going to get there. There's no way that they can drag it for a while, but you can't drag it always. And you see, what the difference that we have right now that we're going through is this. You have to think of it's the history of our country. and the way Canadians have been educated in terms of who First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people are. And I went through that stuff myself. And when you're in it, you don't know what's happening to you. It's just, you don't know that there's another way. But when you discover, as I got older, I start understanding that these books that were written by the church, representing the church, by religious people, written to teach children, young children in the classroom, to hate a nation, and it was us. It was really designed for you guys to learn that we are savages, that we went around scalping the poor people that came here, and that our language was Satan's language. This is the way the Canadians were educated in terms of the history of this country and about all our people. And it worked for many, many years. Now we are going through a different time. Thank God these books are in the garbage and the residential schools are gone. And through the reconciliation and through so many things that people have done across the country to show what the real history is. And I am very impressed to see the changes that's happening right at this moment in Canada. In every province, people at the university level, high school, they're developing new curriculum. They want to teach what this country was, who are the nations. Some of the language are being taught already at the university level. It's a very different time, and I know, even myself as I go across the country, that Canadians are different now. They want to know what that story is. And I think they want to see justice. I really have that feeling, and I'm not the only one. And you see the changes. And we are lucky to have such institution as we do in this country. Certainly the National Film Board of Canada that can make sure that every voice is heard. And it's a very, very different time. So I'm sure you can all know for yourself how you feel now and how did you feel 20 years ago about us. If you look in the mirror, you're going to know what the answer is. And it's incredible. If I die tomorrow, I won't be as worried as I would have been 10 years ago even, because I see the will to tell the truth, to listen, and to want change. And when a whole country wants a change, it doesn't matter if the government doesn't want to follow what they should, they'll have to, because every one of you have a lot of power. It's just that people don't realize, because we are the government. We ourselves have to say our voice out and making sure that it is heard. And I really believe that. And I see some places, some of the changes are very slow in coming. And yes, but I know that it's going to come to what it should be. Because there will be a revolution otherwise, because people are aware, and that's it.
Just Anin Nishnakazia Tanishnabeak Squatese English Betsy Briere Indian Residential School number 66, 63, 62, 52, 49, number 16, and number 1. I am an educator, an academic, and I'm very, very well aware of how words inform truth, how words inform context, how words inform the framework to which discussions happen. One word that really bothers me, really, really bothers me, annoys me, and it's going to be my lifelong, however much life I have left to educate about, is that word healing. My research, my lived experience tells me that the issues that we face, the issues that we see in your stories are all based in colonialism, oppression, the Indian Act, poverty. That's why you see the success in your movies, because of the sharing of resources. I mentioned to my friend here, another residential school survivor, as we were watching this. You see, we didn't have to put us in residential schools. We would have assimilated. And yes, we would have assimilated. We would have taken the best of all of the worlds. We would have done that because that's the kind of people we are. That's the kind of people we were. That's the kind of life we were living. So going back to this word healing, healing implies there's something wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with us. There was nothing wrong with us when they put us in residential schools. The ones that have something wrong with them, the ones that need the healing, are the ones that put us there. The ones who own the Indian Act. The ones who own this government. And maybe we did get citizenship in words in 1960, but that's not our reality. If we were citizens, full citizens, we wouldn't be living under the Indian Act. We wouldn't be living in little reserves. So I really, really object to the word healing. I really think we need to find a different word because there's nothing wrong with us. We suffered from colonial oppression. We are recovering from that. Yes, we have some very serious issues. But is it healing that we really need? Or is it something else? I would argue something else. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Donna, and I attended residential school for 9 years from the age of 7. And I moved to Vancouver when I was 16. I'm 70, going into my 75th year right now. But yeah, I learned I was a savage in the residential school. I hated the color of my skin because we were put in showers and we were given brushes that we used for the floors. And they told us to scrub real hard. And I remember one girl, she was darker than me, and I could see all the tears coming down. That's how we were treated. And I was sexually abused from the age of 7 till I was 16. That's how we were treated. And, you know, to be ashamed of us and them telling us, your parents are savages. You don't want to be like them. You're lucky to be getting an education. I was so ashamed of my grandmother. She only spoke our language, and yet I was ashamed of her in public, yet I loved my grandma. But I couldn't communicate with her. That's what the residential school did. And I talk about it now is just to educate people because I want them to know what it was like growing up Indian in this country, how we were treated, and we weren't put on this earth to be drunks. We were put on, we drink and do drugs is because of the oppression that we went through for so many years. I mean, when I got out of residential school after I turned 18, I was in prostitution. I could have been one of those women that were killed, and because that's all I knew what to do in residential school was I was marked in there. Marked, and I always, that's what I was put in for. People need to understand, and I tell my story just to educate people. And, so I'm really glad that you do talk about things, and I think the music is good. I listened to Kids from Africa one time, and that's what brought them all together is music, and a lot of their parents died from AIDS, and I really like the music. It brings the people together. Thank you.
Uh,
My name is Mabel, and just want to add on to what my two sisters here were saying. And, you talk about the dark. I heard you say dark a few times. That kind of bothered me. And I think it's what I see is the truth is coming out. And what I see is just a very tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more truth that's gonna come out. This is the way our indigenous people have been treated from day one. And what I see with that school working is about love, it's about kindness, it's also about opportunity, the opportunity to be able to make that happen. And I think that's what our people need now is that. And we need a lot of kindness, we need a lot of love. And like one of my ancestors said, Lois Riel, my people will sleep for 100 years, and then they will awaken. And when they awaken, it'll be through the arts, and it'll be through the young people. And I see that starting to happen.
well, everything you said is true. The word healing is very much used by our people all over because there's a need. And healing, it's healing from all that awful stuff that is not part of us, but was put on us. There was no choice. I come from the same place. If I'm here, sitting here today, a couple of years ago, I almost said thank you for all that awful life I've had when I was a child. It was the same kind of thing that you talk about. And then I said to myself, my God, maybe if I had had it so easy, maybe I would not have been doing what I'm doing now. It's just to say that in a horrifying way, it had its own purpose. And there's a lot of songs, there's a lot of chants, and there's a lot of stories, and a lot of it has to do with healing. And the word healing, I understand you don't like it, but it's very much part of our language these days. And even in this film, the title comes from what Gordon says in the film. He says, "Our people will be healed." His meaning of that, it means going back to our own ways, to our traditions, to our way of praying, to our way of being. It's only there that it happens, not by something foreign, because everything has been tried and it doesn't work. We have to go within our heart, within ourselves, within our tradition, within our way of thinking, and this is where people begin to feel better. And this is what a lot of young people are doing. They say, no, I want to understand why my grandfather did or thought or talked a certain way. The same way what they can remember of the old people, what they had to give and what they had to say. And this is, sometimes it's almost unbelievable. Children that are 16, 15, 17 years old, they talk like old people. You think, gee, where did he get this idea? Or how, it's really amazing. And I really believe that this prophecy that was told to us a long time ago is really happening. And in the 60s, the reason I was talking about the 60s, we were so excited and to get organized and, defying Indian affairs and the government and fighting all the time. We thought, like a lot of people saying, we're the seventh generation. And in the 70s, the 80s, same way, we said, oh, no, this is the seventh generation. Now I say, no, it's now. It's right now, When you see the young people that march all the way from James Bay on the Quebec side to Ottawa, when they began to march, it was 56 below zero or 58, it's one or the other, on snowshoes. And you hear these young kids, they say walking is medicine. And I feel my people through me, and they're very young, and this is the way they talk. And to have walked, the young guy who started it, David Kawapit, he told me, when they started to walk, He walked on snowshoes. And he was going to walk alone. And the leadership said, no, you can't do that. Let's have a meeting and we'll see. They had a meeting, so they had 5 other young people who said, I'm going with you. Then an older person said, well, I know the territory very well, so I will go, I will guide you. And I think there was about 7 communities where they could stop and stay there a night and then continue. And David told me as he was walking, he turned his ankle. And he said it was so painful, like crying from the pain. And the guide had a skidoo in case something happens. So the guide said, David, you can't continue walking on your ankle like that. You come and sit on the skidoo until we get to the next community. And he was 16 at that time. And he told me, I was thinking of my grandparents. They didn't have no skidoos. And he said, I want to feel the land like they did. And he said, I never sat on the skidoo. I took off my snowshoes. I used them as crutches, and I walked all the way to the next 16 years old. It's just the mind where this comes from, in that heart that it's so profound, it's so incredible. And we have a very strong movement that's going on. And it's from young people from many communities across the country. And it's just, I don't think, there's no money and there's no new idea that can replace that.
I understand what you're saying, and I still feel I can heal from a movement, but I cannot heal from colonialism. It just doesn't work.
But healing doesn't come from colonialism, it's the contrary, it comes from us. It's not the colonialism that is making us feel better.
But it's what I'm healing from.
No, it's your own people. People are having ceremonies. Look at the Sundance, what they did in Norway House. It's for the same reason. And the word healing is used all the time, but not in the sense that it's not from colonialism. It's not from that. It's from the spirit of the people. And we always had medicine people. And we always had people who help each other, and whether it was philosophically or materialistically, and it's always been there. And yes.
Last question, please.
Hello. Okay. Ani alana mandawn shawanda dejnakas, Anishinaabe Dao, Donishinaabe Nuizin Shanankot, Wakumakong, Ontario Denjima. So I'm a student at the Indigenous Independent Digital Filmmaking program right now. And I just wanted to say I was really looking forward to coming to see this film. And also just reading the title of it, it was really intriguing to me. What I can say is that there's research now to show that trauma is carried in our genes of our ancestors. And when I think about intergenerational trauma, I saw that in this film. And I really saw how in this film it also captured the breaking of that cycle with these children going to the school, and I saw the healing in that, and I thought it was very uplifting. And I also am familiar with your work, and I really love your work, and I really look up to you, so I just wanted to say thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming. Eh?
Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, Madame Alanis Obomsawin, a Canadian treasure. Merci, Madame.
Thank you. You know, the thing to remember, I think, with this film is to see what's possible, what they're doing is such an example, and it really comes from very simple root of things, and it means love. And I am just so happy that I've been able to see this in my lifetime. Thank you.